excited on my way over here. Comfy on the East Coast, who's part of the podcast,
Uh-huh.
was thrilled by the costumes and this, everything that you did for Wildflower Playhouse. But the lives here in Taos are very interesting,
Yeah,
right?
I'd say.
And so for somebody that doesn't live here, it's really cool to be able to be a part of this. So thank you. So what is your name and
Oh,
where are you originally from? Where were you born?
my name is Bill Traetta, officially William, but I go by Bill. And I was born in New York on Long Island, uh, very close to Manhattan in a way, Massapequa Park. And then we moved to the North Shore to Northport, which is an old sea whaling kind of port town. We had like old cable car tracks that went down the middle of the main road in town and lots of Victorian homes. It was settled in the 1600s. It was very rural. I mean, we had like potato farms and things when we moved in. There was still tons of wildlife in the woods. Um, and it was really a perfect place to grow up as a kid. I mean, we had great neighbors. We went out in the woods all the time because there was woods all around us. My parents were like, go ahead, go, do your thing, whatever. So we were never really restricted very much. And then Manhattan was a train ride away.
Yeah, you could hop right on the train and go right
Yeah,
into
and
Manhattan.
so that's what I used to do. I started going into Manhattan by myself when I was about 14 or 15.
Wow.
I'd go with other kids sometimes. And then, of course, growing up in school, a lot of us would just go in and go to Broadway shows and do whatever.
Were you in theater when you were in school? So, because that makes sense why you would go to Broadway.
Yeah.
And I'm so curious the spots. I started going when I was able to drive
Uh
and to
huh.
get to New York from New Jersey. And the Vintage and the East Village was really cool. What was your first experience in theater?
Well, actually, it kind of started in elementary school. Um, there were little skits that we would put on, and teachers would get something set up, and then we'd go to other classrooms and perform for them. And sometimes it was just singing, and sometimes it would be a little show about whatever, something Revolutionary War or whatever. And so that kind of started me into theater. But when I was really young, my mom's story about me was that she tried to punish me. She put me in a corner in a chair facing the wall, and she'd say, "I could never get him mad because he's always singing." And so singing was my main thing. I was immediately, as soon as I could join choir, I was in choir. And I started doing solos in third grade in front of the choir. And of course, arts and music and all that stuff was very big in our school district. School district Northport was number 4. We were the best. We were the best
In Long Island?
on Long Island.
Really?
We had,
And if you don't know, Long Island is huge.
yeah.
That's a
So
lot of schools.
yeah, so we were like, it was extremely well funded tax wise, gave us a whole different world that a lot of people don't get when they go to school. And back then, I think it was better anyway. You know, arts were more funded.
Right.
And all of it, music, everything. I mean, so that was kind of like my introduction into doing more theater and being on stage. My experience growing up is that there was so much stuff available
Right.
to do in our community, and then also with school, doing vocal competitions with other schools. And it was amazing. So, and my parents were not restricted or restrictive of that with me. And also, my mom was very Broadway oriented. She loved all that. So, oh, I'm going to go see Funny Girl. And Barbara Streisand. And so it was all that kind of stuff where it was like just natural for us to go in and see a show. And of course, doing smaller things. I was in Barbershop Quartet. There's the Society for the Preservation of Barbershop Quartet Singing in America. So then they would pick and choose people that they wanted to experience other things. So there was madrigal singers, and there was swing in high school specifically. madrigal, swing singers. The full choir was 200 kids.
Wow.
I mean, it was huge. And then on top of that, we had all of the symphonic orchestra and the pep band and the violin quartets and the string ensemble. And then on top of that, we also had opera. I mean, there was so much music. We were singing opera in high school.
Wow.
It's like in the early 70s.
Yeah.
I graduated in 73 from high school.
73. Okay.
So, yeah, I'm old. I am old.
Not. You're going through everything that you have been a part of. It's actually unbelievable how much you've done in the amount of time because you are still young. And
Well, thank you.
you are, I loved that I met you and you said, "Oh, I'm actually retired," but here you were making these costumes for the Playhouse. Then what happened between high school and the
Oh, okay.
next step?
So basically, I wanted to be on stage. That was my big thing. Is that I thought I was going to be, a triple threat. And living in New York, basically, it was difficult. It was really hard. I went to an audition for Pippin, and it was for one role, which was a chorus dancer. And there were 400 people that morning and 400 people that afternoon that were all trying to get that one spot. And I realized that it was not going to be easy. And I would say that I was good, but I wasn't a standout. I wasn't brilliant, which is what they were looking for,
Yeah. Wow.
And so I started to learn to sew when I was about 14. My mom sewed, my dad sewed. He also built our house. So there was a lot of creativity going on in our household.
And you had how many brothers and sisters?
I had two older sisters.
Okay.
So we so anyway, at 14, learning how to sew. When I started doing theater at about that age, like really seriously and doing community theater and stuff like that, there was always tweaks with the costumes. Oh, this hat isn't good. Oh, I don't like the way this fits me. So I was always working on costumes at the same time I was trying to act. And then I got a job in this place called North Stage after high school, and I started just moving scenery around. Well, we did a production of La Mancha, and the wardrobe supervisor was like, "I got to go." They needed somebody to take over the wardrobe department, and they asked me, and I said yes. So that was my first formal professional job as a wardrobe person.
Wow.
In the theater. And it was called a theater restaurant because it was an old opera house that they converted into tables in the orchestra for eating. And then the balcony was still, you could just get a ticket and go and sit in the balcony and watch a production.
On Long Island.
Yeah, in Glen Cove area.
Oh, I know where that is. That's cool.
And so, unfortunately, I mean, we did quite a few years of productions. The mob owned it. The restaurant mob people, all these Italians, and
Yeah.
that was like the beginning. And then I started to go into Manhattan more during that time. And there was all these costume houses in New York where you would rent clothing or they'd make stuff. And so I started getting more into Manhattan was certainly drawing me in more and more performing, but also doing the wardrobe stuff.
And that was like mid 70s to late 70s.
Mm-hmm.
Where were you doing the performances in Manhattan?
Like the Blue Note Cafe. A bunch of my friends, we all put together, a show for New Year's Eve. And we would get hired to sing at these clubs or at these restaurants, and just do it, and we were always pushing to try to get more and more and more popular. But of course, Manhattan's huge, but we did a fairly good job. I mean, we got some money, we got paid, and we performed. And then at the same time, I got a job working as a helper for a woman who had a small business that was apartment renovation. She would go in and we'd redecorate and paint and do things. So a lot of the handy stuff that my dad did kind of was just there.
Wow.
I mean, I used to watch him do woodworking and stuff at home when I was a kid, and he always let me do things. Like, here, you want to use a lathe? Go ahead. Here's a bandsaw. Go ahead. He would teach me how to use it, and I just started doing things on my own, unsupervised. I mean, just come up with an idea. Oh, I want to make some platform shoes out of 2x4s for my sisters. Weird things like that.
Yeah.
And it was like, okay. But anyway, so
And now you've built your house here in Taos too?
well, it was a log cabin kit, but
Right.
yeah,
But you have to
basically,
put it together.
yeah, and basically they let you pick what you want, everything below the floor, and whatever the floor is, and everything above. So, and how you want to set up the rooms in the house and all that kind of stuff. So you get the shell, and then you do everything else.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's kind of like I've always had like carpentry background, some electric, some plumbing, just all that kind of stuff as well, which also helped for me going into costumes more, because my thing was always the special stuff that
Right.
nobody else knew how to do, or if they did, there weren't that many of those people around to do that.
Early 80s, right? Now you're into this big costume design, because even just me building my glam trash outfit,
Uh-huh.
I was thinking, oh, wow, this needs more structure and all these things. But when we saw you behind the scenes at Wildflower Playhouse, I mean, you showed me, it looked like a linebacker kind of with the shoulder pads, and then that whole form, how one went on the other. You need to know how to build a structure
Yes.
that works, and then you have
Yes.
to translate it to the human body,
Yes.
right?
And a lot of it, wardrobe, costume, clothing, all of this stuff that we wear, we don't look at it with the respect that it deserves, I think, particularly because it's a woman's field. Women have been making clothing for people for thousands of years, and nobody thinks of it as being important, except it's the only thing that allowed us to move throughout the entire globe and be able to exist basically everywhere because of clothing. You couldn't walk around in the freezing cold without something on.
Right.
And so I think it's totally disrespected.
Talk to that
Particularly,
more. Yeah.
well, particularly because it's a woman's field, and women were not as important as men because they didn't feed everybody. I mean, it's one of those things we're so used to having clothing that we don't even consider what it is and what it has done for humanity at large. It just, like I said, no respect. It's the same way still in movies, in theater. I still don't think it gets the respect that it deserves. At the same time, they can't shoot movies unless they want everybody naked. They can't do theater unless they want everybody naked.
Right.
And then actors will say, I found my character when I got my wardrobe,
That's it.
you know?
Right.
And so to be a part of that is pretty amazing.
Right. I mean, if you're doing timepieces, I'm always looking at the inconsistencies, whether it's makeup, hair, wardrobe, or when they do. I'm always that person that it was like, that just ruined it for me.
Yeah.
Right. Because if there's an inconsistency, I just, now it's taking you out of the time period, and it's not real.
Right.
Right. Movies, you want to feel like you're in them.
Uh-huh.
For me, same thing
Uh-huh.
with a play. What drives you in? It's interesting. Where was I? Oh, I went to it. It was very. It was. Oh wait, where was it? Somebody was wearing Crocs. It
Okay.
was right, and everybody was so consistent, and it was clear you're not gonna. Everybody can't wear shoes from whatever that timepiece was, but the Crocs, in the middle of it, then you're just like, oh man, she just should have wore socks.
Yeah. Right. Yes.
But it takes a lot of respect, and I think when you say the character didn't know they were in it until they put the clothes on,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
They couldn't feel what it was like to be that person,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Imagine, like, I always think of just Mick Jagger, or if you're, impersonating Fred Rogers, like, or, even Kurt Cobain, like, when you would put that clothing on, it would totally make you feel a bit of that person.
Yeah.
Halloween is one of my favorite.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love dressing up. I love coming up with the idea.
I'm getting that from you.
Yeah.
You do.
I do. And I love having variety in it. And it's a big part of why I'm throwing a Halloween costume party in Taos, because it's your chance to just get outside of yourself too.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But how like you dress, even outside of the respect of, like, I'm lucky to have these clothes. I feel very strongly about that too. Right? I'm not just lucky that I have clothes, but I'm lucky that I have clothes that I can have fun with. And I can interchange them, where some people only have like 3 t-shirts and 2 pairs of jeans, right?
Yeah.
And I feel privileged that I get to do that. Even if it's me going to thrift stores, right? I have the privilege of being able to do that. And back in the day, my uncle the other night, I think this is funny, he still darns his underwear.
Oh, okay.
He doesn't like to throw things out. So he was sewing his underwear, and I'm thinking, there was a time where darning your socks, right? Real wool socks, right? That were very expensive. And now these days, kids getting socks at Christmas, which was such a luxury. Because, I mean, for me, when I got stocked up on school clothes, that was your set for the year.
Yeah.
Right. I didn't come from a family that had like interchanging outfits. It was
Right.
like, you're wearing this till it wears out.
Yeah, until it's gone.
Until
basically.
It's gone. Until
threadbare.
till your sneakers don't have a sole on them.
Yeah.
Right. And that I understand as being the respect around it too, is that, we're very lucky to have clothes.
But there was a show on PBS. I can't remember if it's called Human Footprint. I think it might be. But anyway, there was a whole show just about textiles and clothing and what happens to it, and how it is one of the hugest problems on earth is getting rid of clothing.
Oh yeah.
And what happens to it, and how it just is destroying our planet.
And the dye.
Oh, all of it.
Yeah.
It's also toxic.
It is. So we were talking about fast fashion, and there's so many problems with it, right?
Yeah.
The Sheins and the Temus that are out there, and they're very poorly made anyway, but they're also using people in a slave labor kind of way, which is just horrifying. I can't support it. I have a hard time, even like when you need something quick and you don't want to spend a lot of money. That's why we reach for these things, but then you're just creating garbage. And fast fashion is meant that you're going to wear it once or twice and then it goes in the garbage. Unless you re-wear it, there's like no way of getting this back into the ground where it's not destroying it.
Right, yeah, because it does not break down.
Right.
It's meant not to break down.
Right.
And so, yeah, it just ends up being a huge problem, and we don't even recognize it because it's just clothes.
Right.
Again, it just comes down, oh, it's just clothes. Who cares? Oh, what? It's just, no, it's really terrible. But anyway, I don't know. There's not much. I mean, we're a society's already set up to do things a certain way, and I don't know how we get to turn any of that around.
I don't know either.
I mean, I keep thinking, why don't they build spaceships and like shoot it at the sun? Just like burn it up, get rid of all this toxic shit. The sun doesn't care.
Yeah.
It's like, it just, do something. Get rid of this. And don't put it in the oceans. Oh my God.
Yeah.
The cesspool of our planet, our oceans. And anyway.
I'll have to say, but my uncle wrote me something really funny. So he's an artist here. I hope you get to meet him at some point, since 89. And he watched the Glam Trash fashion show. It was great. I mean, the costumes were amazing. I went as my social media personification, but also my radio show. I went as the Daily Tea with Jay, and I made a tutu out of newspaper, and it was all very media, and it was poppy. I had like neon, that's why I colored my hair, but like it had like very fun colors. It was interesting and nothing I'm not saying anything bad about it, but there was a somberness to some of the clothing and the outfits that went out there. And my uncle said, I appreciated it, but I don't want to go to a fashion show about like dystopia and war. And I thought that was a real dichotomy between what I did and maybe I kind of am a more bubblegum kind of person, but I just kind of that's how I am. But and
Uh-huh.
I understood why they made a remark to what's happening in our society. And I
Yeah.
thought, you know what? I'm gonna stick to my guns on trying to be fun and happy in this thing that I can't control.
Right.
I can protest and make fun signs, or I can make a statement around what's happening, but in a fun, playful way. That's why I was excited to be able to meet you and have you on the show because it's important to talk about the things that are underlying in our society. But I also think it's fashion, hair, music that has always spoken to
Mm-hmm.
the times, but in a really like my mind is fun filled. Even if you're talking about something that's creepy like aliens and spooky,
Uh-huh.
it's still fun, right? Like behind the scenes, you're having such a fucking good time.
Right,
And
right.
me doing hair, I look at hair during these timepieces and it's always fun to remark on it, right? Of
Mm-hmm.
what's happening right now. Right now, I'm into space cowgirl alien aesthetic, which is just like what's happening right now in our world is just it's not making any sense.
Right, right.
There
Yeah.
are a lot of aliens out there that I'm like, are these even people? Like, what are they even thinking? Like the non thinkers, like, what are they thinking?
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
AI generated, I love AI just because it's interesting what's happening, but it's scary. I think
Well, yeah.
AI
Yeah.
is very scary and it's taking place of the human person and the human psyche. It's just weaving this weird computerized idea into people's heads.
And the fact that it can be both is also, in a weird way, somewhat frightening because then you don't know what's real.
Right.
If this is fact, but AI can lie to you, yeah, it's weird. It's very weird. AI is,
It's
yeah, somewhat
weird.
frightening.
It is. And then I went to college for English literature and I studied Shakespeare. And I was obsessed with the etymology of words and how things translate. I'm so glad that I finished school before the push of any kind of computer happened. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I had a word processing computer, but I had to go back into the archives of what I was studying and understand the underpinnings of all of it
Right.
based on the books that I was reading.
Right.
I couldn't pull this. I was working on microfiche, you
Uh
know,
huh. Uh huh.
and going to the library,
Right.
right? And
Yeah.
I think the computer, it's just as much of a tool as it is like it's garbage too because it's diluting the critical thinking of people,
Right.
right? You can come up with a bio on AI. I mean, it's scary when it's like, okay, can you tell me who Jay Vosper is? And then it's like so strange how it would be able to pick everything off the internet about me and come up with my own bio.
Right. Yeah.
And so I was even happy. I was like, I know that you're not even using AI for this. This is you. And then
Yeah.
I think down to patterns of, do you feel like AI is replacing costume designing? Do you think that that is something that people are going to be using more and more of to get it done faster?
I don't know that that's going to happen. I mean, the way it's sort of set up right now is that a designer can either draw themselves a figure, or oftentimes what they do, more often than not, is they hire illustrators who the designer works very closely with. They use their computer to actually draw, but the creative process is so important that the designer gets their creation built, that whatever's in their head, it's going to come out on a piece of paper for everybody to look at. But I don't think AI is going to be able to do that in the same way, certainly not right now.
Right.
um, but I'm sure there would be a way to extrapolate from historical costuming, that AI could go, oh, okay, I'm going to use a piece of this, a piece of that, a piece of that. which is similar to what a designer is going to do, but it's not going to be the same.
Right.
I really don't think it'd be the thing. You still need the creative process of a person to make that costume sketch.
There's nobody that could put that into that like processing system
Right,
except a human.
right.
Even if they're trying to do that in actual movies, you're never, when it comes to the live experience, ever going to be replacing a human.
And even like we were always concerned because of doing puppeteering and having live action puppets being filmed for television or movies, and the interaction between a puppeteer and their puppet and the real person, that relationship. And then they started to do more computer generated. And so a lot of directors, I think, started going back toward actual puppets. And you can see it on TV. If you're watching a commercial, you're like, that's a real puppet. That's not generated.
So from the 80s into, because I'm thinking back to E.T. and Fraggle Rock, uh, obviously the Muppets. I grew up with the
Right.
Muppets. Alf. I feel like Disney took over in a different way, and then you had what was the other one? There was the other production that did like Toy Story,
Like Pixar.
Pixar.
Yeah.
Would you then, from what you're saying, feel like there's a renaissance back into the actual like puppeteering in movies too?
I think that what happened, I don't know if it's a renaissance, but I think what happened is that people realized that if you're going to do animation, make it be animation. And if you're going to do puppets, make it be real puppets. It's just easier for the actors, in a way, to have something to be able to relate to directly. So I think there's a little bit more of a going back to what it used to be, but it's never going to be what it really used to be.
Right.
But anyway, there's something about having a puppet live, and particularly if it's geared toward children, that creates such a sense of wonder for them. And also, they don't even see the person, even if the person is standing right there. They relate directly to the puppet as though it's a living, breathing thing. And it's amazing to see that happen. I worked with puppeteer Tony Urbano in LA, and one of our accounts was Snuggle. So Snuggle fabric softener.
Yeah.
So I used to make Snuggle bears. But also he had a cruise ship show that he used to do, and they would do marionettes on cruise ships. And people would say to him, well, who are you? And he'd go, well, I'm the puppeteer. And they go, I didn't see you. They're standing right there in a tuxedo. And adults don't even see them. They're looking at the marionette. And it was amazing to think that people can disconnect so easily from the fact that there's an actual person standing there creating this, making this happen. And people don't even see them. And they're right there.
That's so interesting. I think I don't know what part of it is that needs to do that and needs that escape,
Uh-huh.
right? It's a part of us that needs to go back into the child like
Yeah.
wonder.
Yeah.
Then, so bridging from when you were working at the opera house after high school, when did you get into puppeteering?
Oh, well, I always had a weird thing about it. Like, one of the first times that I actually kind of recognized that something was a puppet that was fun was Singing in the Rain with Donald O'Connor, and he's sitting on the couch with the headless dummy, and he's flinging it around and doing all that stuff. And anyway, that captivated me somehow. And so I was very young when I saw that. That was the first kind of puppet I ever tried to make, was a facsimile of that. I took old sheets and I cut them and turned it into a body, and then I could do what Donald O'Connor did. So that was the beginning, kind of, and also because of learning how to sew, that was another thing that's all part of it. But when I really started to get into puppets, I think was probably in San Francisco. A friend of mine was a puppeteer that I worked with. We built costumes together. and he was on a show called Buster and Me, I believe was the name of it. And it was about a chimpanzee and his friend, an orangutan, who had a show. And so I auditioned and I got the part. So I was on TV on KRON
That's so cool.
doing this Buster's Ape show. And the weird thing was that I had a great audition. My voice was perfect. And then as soon as I started to work on the show, I lost my voice and I couldn't do the voice. But what that did is allowed the writer to start doing things about how kids are so shy that they can't express themselves.
Oh,
And so it all worked in a way that it became a thing that was good for kids to learn about.
wow.
But that was my first TV show, and of course, then I became a union member of AFTRA, and that started my puppeting career. But I was also doing everything else all at the same time, doing the costuming, working, and I'm sure you saw in San Francisco we did display for Gumps.
Yeah.
So it was everything. But that again, that's all miniature. That was all a lot of working with figures,
Like smaller scale.
small scale, which is all kind of puppet related in a way
Right.
too. So everything has a crossover. Doing the costuming and doing the puppets and doing display and also knowing how to do woodworking and all of that combines into the one thing that I really focus on more than anything, which was costume crafts or specialty wardrobe, as we call it in the movie industry, where you have to know how to do everything just to make a costume.
Like
Yeah.
I think that it for me, that's kind of where I'm at in my life, where there's like, why are you doing so much? It's because I can, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
putting it all together.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
In this way, for me, that is coming alive.
Yeah.
And I think when you hit that moment where you're like, wait a second, back when I was in third grade, now this and this, and now I remember like all these people that influenced you, right?
Uh-huh.
And it just all comes together because you are part of the production,
Yeah.
right? And your personality is also part of the production,
Yes.
right?
That's for sure.
And
Oh yeah.
and I would love, so going into, what was your first movie?
My first movie was The Nutcracker, which was Pacific Northwest Ballet. Carol Ballard, who was movie director, they they shot everything up in at the theater, but then they moved down to Oakland to do pickups and different little pieces that they needed to insert into the production. I got a job on that, and credit actually was head grip or something like that. But what it actually was me doing everything that they needed to have done that I could help with. Like, oh, here, this little background cardboard thing. We need you to paint this color on here and do this and do that because we're going to film that. And then I ended up actually being in the costume of the Nutcracker because they needed a shot with the Nutcracker fighting the Mouse King with a sword, and they didn't have it. And I had told them that I was a ballet dancer at some point, so they were like, "Okay,
So you actually went.
I'm in the costume, not credited in
Right.
the movie at all, but yeah, I ended up in the costume, and you see me going like this, fighting as the Nutcracker." So that movie was the beginning of also realizing that there was a lot more that you can do in the movie industry other than just be a key grip.
Right. But Earth 2 was 1994, right?
Yeah, 94, 95.
And
Yeah.
then the Batman and Robin.
Batman and Robin, that was George Clooney, Chris O'Donnell. I had been working doing things for film and television, but I had a friend who asked if she could get me into the union because they needed more people to work on Batman and Robin. We had a huge crew of specialty wardrobe people who made the bat suits.
Wow.
All the way to auto mechanic refinishers, because a lot of the molds that they made to make the suits, which were foam latex, had to be perfect. The first ones looked like the guy who is the head wrangler for the bat suits. He said it looked like oatmeal. So as they kept developing the bat suits, they got better and better and easier. But we still needed this 14, 16, 18, 20 people all working on bat suits.
Wow.
I mean, it was that complicated.
Wow.
And so that was my first union job going into television and movies as far as working in the union in LA.
In LA.
And that was all the theater background that got me to that place.
So cool. And then it just took off because
Yeah.
you have Batman and Robin, Armageddon.
Yeah, Armageddon. I worked on the spacesuits.
Also Castaway?
Yeah, but that was like, that's one of those things where there's so many different aspects of what we do.
Yeah.
And one of them is aging for costumes.
Yeah.
And aging for costumes makes a movie look real or a TV show.
Yeah.
Because I don't think there's anything that you put on a person that you shouldn't do something to.
Right.
Like fray an edge, make a hole. Whatever it is, it makes it real. And so, and part of that is for a movie like Castaway, he starts out with this outfit and it goes through different experiences, the costume and him, to change it to make it to be what it is. So you'll have 5 of these that look the same, and then 5 of these that look the same, but it's a process further, and then 5 more that looks the same, but a process further. So there's always a time flow in a film where you take a costume from A, go to B, go to C, go to D, and then over, it's done. And for the audience, not even to question it. They don't have to look at something and go, oh, I see what they did. It automatically becomes part of the subconscious viewing of that film.
So I don't take up too much of your time. Very quickly, know why you moved to Taos County.
It's a conglomeration of things, but I have people who have connections to New Mexico that go back very far.
And this is your place of retirement.
Yeah, it is.
Your forever
log
cabin.
It kind of ended up that, I mean, just circumstance. I had a partner who died from HIV many years ago, but he always liked it out here when we were together, and we had decided that we were going to live out here for retirement. And then it turned out that then he passed away, but my mom used to come and visit me in LA, and then we used to come out here for vacations, and my friend had a trailer, so we would stay here, and she said, oh, I'd love to live out here, so I built the cabin for her. And then, of course, she got dementia, so she had to move away. So I was always going back and forth between LA and here, always going back and forth, visiting friends who lived here, helping to create a community of friends who were in LA, but then wanted to come here as well. So we all kind of gravitated toward Taos.
So you have a community here too.
Yeah, although it becomes like a little less,
right,
a little more, then a little less again. But I have a group of friends who I've known for quite a few years who are in this area.
I'm so happy that you found Taos, and I can't thank you enough for spending the morning with me. I think there's a lot of your story that it really needs to be celebrated.
Well,
it's so cool. So thank you for taking the time with me today.
Oh, no, no problem. Yeah. Oh. Well,